Hi, I'm Christa Jacobson, headmistress of the Budo, where we teach authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. In today's video, we're going back to the 1980s ninja boom. We're going to be looking at certain things that influenced and sparked the interest of ninjutsu, and it built all the way through the mid-60s, all the way through the 70s, and then the 1980s ninja boom, and then everything just kind of died down. So we're going to be looking at another publication in this particular video. It's from 1970. It's written by Andrew Adams, and the book is called Ninja: The Invisible Assassins. That's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, this book also fits the same timeline that I spoke about in my previous video. So if you guys have not seen my previous video on the 1980s ninja boom, in that video I showed a 1966 original copy Black Belt magazine. It had a ninja on the cover. That is the first time that we saw ninja from a historical perspective written and published in the martial arts community here in America. I shared that with you guys from my collection, and I go through a lot of the different information on there and showed how much of it was historically accurate. Some of the other things that we've seen, which definitely started in the 60s from Japan. Now, that particular publication predates Stephen Hayes going to Japan to train with Hatsumi, which I believe is in the mid-1970s. It also predates the actual formation of the Bujinkan, which was 1978, I believe. Now, although Hatsumi was teaching previous to when he established the Bujinkan, it still predates the Bujinkan organization. So with these videos that I'm doing, I'm trying to kind of share some information about this is what we saw as ninjutsu in America in the 60s, and we're just going to kind of go through the timeline, and I'm going to share some information with you guys, and you guys can kind of see how it changed from the 60s through the 70s into the 80s, and then it just became so saturated with everything that a lot of people just wasn't interested anymore. But nonetheless, we're going to be looking at this book today. Again, Ninja: The Invisible Assassins by Andrew Adams. Again, 1970 is when this book was published. Predates Stephen Hayes going to Japan to train with Hatsumi. Again, that's in the mid-70s-ish. And it also predates before Hatsumi actually established the Bujinkan, which was the late 70s, I believe 1978. So we're going to look at some of the information in here and then kind of determine how much of this shaped what we see today as the ninja martial arts training. How much of this influenced what we do today as ninja martial arts training, and how much of it is historically accurate. Now, before I begin, I always give a shout out to all of my new viewers. So if this is the first video that you guys are seeing of me, my name is Christa Jacobson. I'm the headmistress of the Budo, which means School of the Warrior Way. We teach Koryu Ninjutsu and Koryu Bujutsu, so the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. This organization does have other areas of focus, such as reality-based self-defense, weapons training and tactics, concealed carry, survival skills, martial arts theory, thought and philosophy, martial arts conditioning. If any of these topics interest you at all, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the bell. I do post 2 to 3 videos every single week, so if you're interested in any of these topics, please subscribe, click the bell, and keep up with what we're doing. Okay, so this is the book that we're going to be looking at today, Ninja: The Invisible Assassins by Andrew Adams. Again, this one is written in 1970. The previous video that I posted was Black Belt magazine. This is the original from my collection, December 1966. And the reason I'm going to be going through this timeline of how what we saw ninjutsu as in the 1960s through the 70s and into the 80s, the reason I want to go through this is a lot of people tend to think that the earlier stuff that we see in America in the 60s and 70s, early 80s is just historically inaccurate, that it's just, you know, Sho Kosugi and a ninja movie, and that's not true. The ninja movies that we see in the 80s, it built up through that. We see this in the 60s, we see lots of things in the 70s, and it just kind of builds up to the 80s, where then all you see the Sho Kosugi movies, etc., etc. But the information that we see that's published on the actual art of ninjutsu, there are lots of elements in it that are historically accurate, and the information is very good in many ways. Now, is all of it extremely accurate? Are there any type of things that have any things that may not be true or things like that, or maybe a little historically inaccurate? Sure, there are some things, but the reality of it is a lot of the stuff that we see back then, it isn't that far off, and a lot of it does have a lot of historical accuracies to it. Okay, so here we go with the book. Again, the book is written in 1970. I've got the 1966 Black Belt magazine out as well, because there's an image in here that most people use the image out of this book and they don't get a clearer picture because the original picture was done in 66, but the image is also in here. And in here, the contrast is so high, it makes it appear something that it is not. So that's why we got this out, and I wanted to clear that up as well. Now, I've also got some tabs on the side here because I think it's kind of an important bit. So as we go through, I'm going to take off some of these tabs. It says, ninjutsu has been variously described as an art of sneaking in, the art of stealth, and even the art of invisibility. And it goes on to say simply, the ninja were cloak and dagger artists of Japan's feudal era from the late 13th century to the early 17th century. Now, again, this is a very popular woodblock print in the ninja community. This is also in the 66 black belt, a bigger picture of that. Like I said, go watch the video. So here, it's written, it says, in all the annals of Japan's long history, no single breed of men ever wreaked more havoc or spawned more terror than the fabulous clans of ninja, cloaked in black from head to toe and concealing a small arsenal of deadly weapons and secret devices. These medieval masterminds of espionage, sabotage, arson, and assassination moved stealthily but relentlessly across the pages of Japan's turbulent era from the late 13th to the 17th centuries. You see a picture of the Mochi house. I'll get closer, you guys can see that if you would like. Picture of the Sandeyu Mochi house. Again, there are lots of pictures of this in this book. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's also a few pictures in this magazine that we went through already. So I'm trying not to like repeat some of the process. But the same man that wrote the 1966 article, Andrew Adams, is also the author of this book. So a lot of the pictures also kind of, you know, go back and forth here, right? This is just a picture of Iga on the backside of Mochi's house. And he basically, right here, you know, I'll read this one little bit to you. It just says, to confuse his enemies and conceal his identity, famed ninja Sandeyu Mochi maintained 3 separate residences within a different, with a different wife and family living at each, such as his home above and in the Okaone mountain range in Nabari, which is below, right? So these are the 2 houses said to be from Sandeyu Mochi, right? Or two of his houses, I guess. Okay, now over here, what we're looking at is more pictures of the Mochi Sandeyu. And here, I'm going to get a picture up close so you guys can see this image right here. Right, and right underneath this image, back out, you guys can see the picture there. It says Tanba no Kami, the title of nobility by which the Iga ninja leader Sandeyu Mochi was also known, marks the site of his main stronghold. This mountain fastness was raised by Nobunaga Oda in 1581. So here is just a kind of a monument, if you will, which just marks the site of where Sandeyu Mochi's stronghold really was, right? In Japan. Now over here again, this is the house of Sandeyu Mochi, and it says the 17th descendant of Sandeyu Mochi lives in the 400-year farmhouse in the mountains above 15 miles north of Igawano in Nabari. Below is the Mochi family graves, where the renowned ninja master lies buried and now overgrown with weeds. So here is the Mochi house. So this is a monument for Mochi Sandeyu's stronghold. This is where he lived, and here is the Mochi family graves, and he is said to be buried there. Get close up, you guys can see that. Okay, so here we're looking at a technique. Any of you guys in the ninja community know that this technique is called Zasagashi, and it says probing for his enemy in a dark room. A ninja at left balances the scabbard on the tip of his sword with a cord extended from the sheath. To touch the scabbard awakens the sleeping victim, who prepares to draw his own sword below. The ninja quickly releases the cord, then strikes with his unsheathed sword. Now, you guys know this is a technique found in the Bansenshukai. Now, I think it's important to say that, again, a lot of the information from the 60s and 70s is a lot from the Bansenshukai and the Shoninki. There's so much information in this book that I 100% comes from the Bansenshukai and Shoninki. Like, it's just riddled with it. So I think it's just kind of an important bit to realize that, you know, again, not everything from this era was bad, but something happened in the 80s where they got away from like Bansenshukai stuff and things like that. It just kind of took a different change to what we see in the 80s. But predating that, you know, there is lots of things that is very historically accurate, and this is a technique that many of you guys know is in the Bansenshukai, as well as many other ninja traditions that are practiced today. Over here, we're seeing lots of different ninja ladders, which also you see in a historical text. Lots of different ninki or ninja tools, climbing drills of the ninja, which you guys know in Tomo-ryu, it's Josho no Jitsu. It's talking about how the ninja had various different types of smoke signals and communicating with each other, and how they did different types of fire techniques. And then over here, we talk about some of the esoteric, right? And here it just says a witch's brew. But it says the ninja were probably the first inventors of poisonous gas, although it was used more as an anesthetic to put victims to sleep than to kill them. And then it kind of goes on and it says the way that you would do this, and it gives you the concoction here. It says the powder of 3 male rats, several leaves of the palawa tree, 1 fat centipede, a handful of cotton seeds, several scoops of yellow cattle dung. And then it kind of goes on and on. So even here, it's talking about different types of poisonous gases and the things that we think of from a historical ninjutsu perspective. It's actually written here, right? So we see, you know, it may not be exactly how to do it, but the information of what the ninja used it's written in here, which I think that's kind of interesting as well. So what we're talking about here is types of food that the ninja would have taken with them on a mission, so that they would have rations while on a mission. And again, good stuff, right? Here, we're getting into espionage, and it says, according to Okuse, there are 6 preparatory tactics used by the ninja in conducting espionage activities. Anonymity, discovering enemy aims, collecting intelligence data, misleading the enemy, learning the enemy's favorite fighting tactics, and preventing the tactics of his own lord from becoming predictable. It goes on to talk about mume no jutsu, which is no art, no name, and then it goes on to that. Again, 1970, for those of you guys who are interested in that particular there, mume no jutsu, right? The art of no name. Now here, we're talking about one called hiding behind God. Now this particular technique is called Kamigakure no Jutsu. This is not the same technique as Kanengakure no Jutsu, which is God hiding. This is hiding behind God. God hiding, you see in the Bansen Shukai, is Kanengakure. This is Kamigakure no Jutsu. It's one of the most clever stratagems of the ninja's bag of tricks. It's called Kamigakure no Jutsu, or hiding oneself behind God. In this case, the ninja might be handed the dangerous assignment of assassinating an enemy lord, which we know is also talked about in the Bansen Shukai. The lords in those bygone days were heavily guarded by samurai and their own ninja. As a result, again, we're talking about here, the lords were heavily guarded by both samurai and their own ninja. So the whole ninja versus samurai thing wasn't happening in the 60s or the 70s. The ninja and samurai both guarded their lord. As a result, it might be far too risky to attempt a frontal attack or a midnight break-in, which such difficult assignment the ninja would fall back on cunning by proceeding indirectly. And this indirect approach, which they go on, is Kamigakure no Jutsu. Now here, we're looking at one called Yamabiko Shicho no Jutsu, and this is listening to the echo. The ninja would provide false information directly to suspected enemy agents and then closely observe his reaction or counter-reaction. So basically misleading intelligence, kind of planting information throughout the different area, trying to get people thinking, you know, kyojutsu, things of that nature. And it's all right here, talks about that, cloak of secrecy, etc., etc. Again, now you're seeing where earlier it talked about the black ninja cloaked in black. Also talks about as farmers, priests, merchants, or even, you know, gangsters of the Edo period. Kakimono scroll painting to the left. Ninja were prepared for combat at all times. Above, the enemy swordsman has apparently perpetuated disguise of a ninja dressed in a kumoso or inherent monk, as the ninja must block and blow with the bamboo flute or shakuchi. So basically, also you see in here the 6 tools, which is in the Shoninki, and the 7 disguises of the ninja, which is also in the Shoninki, is also discussed, intermixed in this particular book as well. Again, 1970. So lots of stuff from the Bansen Shukai is in here. He's done his research. Lots of stuff from the Shoninki, done his research. But also very influenced by Hatsumi. Again, even though this predates Hatsumi's organization of the Bujinkan, he was still teaching at that time. So Hatsumi also influenced a lot of this book as well. And it says, utilizing tactic known as Yoja no Jutsu, the ninja assumed appearance of a weak creature to penetrate the enemy's defense. In other words, he described himself as a beggar, a cripple, a madman, or a blind man, or a deaf mute, and stumbled into the enemy camp as part of a rabble or tagged after merchants. And it goes into, you know, creating diversion, called, here we got Suigetsu no Jitsu, or the moon in the water, and it talks about what Suigetsu no Jitsu is, and it talks about how to draw attention, etc., etc. Here we have a pretty famous picture. Here is Hatsumi. There's Hatsumi over here as a bone doctor working with, I assume, a patient when he was a bone doctor here. Some of the Togakure-ryu scrolls that he allowed to be put in this book. Over here, picture of Hatsumi. Now, 1970s, let's go through this. We talk about ninja image, right? So, ninja image, we've got the black ninja mask, black ninja outfit. Notice this is not a kimono. This is a uwagi. Now, an uwagi is basically the top that you see in your keikogi. I'm going to say, for the lack of a better word, the black karate gi, right? So the top of your keikogi that you use in karate or judo or aikido or whatever, the top of the jacket isn't kimono, it's called uwagi. So he has a black uwagi, he's got a black mask, black uwagi, got a black belt. You know, he does not have a straight sword here, but here he's got ties off at the bottom and the tabi, right? So there's the image. Let me get that down like that light don't get on there for you guys. There's an image. And let's be honest, if you take away the mask, everything there is normal Japanese wear. It was normal, absolutely normal for Japan to have uwagi, gauntlet, pants, tabi, tie them off here. We see so many different woodblock prints and actual antique photos from the time where they're tying off their ankles and shins. All this is very common. Everything from the mask down is very common, and masks in Japan were very common. So people that say ninjas didn't wear masks when all of that clothing was very common and masks were very common, I think is, I just think it's a little ridiculous. If you guys haven't seen my video on the real Shinobi Shizuoka, I go through various different antique photos and different woodblock prints and documents to show the Shinobi Shizuoka. So if you guys have not seen my video on Shinobi Shizuoka, you guys should go check that out, okay? Now again, I want to kind of go over this too. Again, what we're seeing here, again, 1970. We're seeing ninjas in black, black masks, you know, kyahans at the bottom, carrying different tools, ninki, whether it's various ladders, swords, hooked ropes, etc. Now, this is the image that I'm talking about. This picture in this book has a high contrast. It makes the weapons and everything not look like it does in here. This is where the original picture is. The contrast is so high, it makes the sword look different. Almost like this, you could make an argument as a curved sword. It's not a curved sword, that is a straight sword. Here, so this photo was taken in the 60s in Ego Ueno Museum. You see black ninja outfit, black mask, straight sword, square tsuba, short curved sword, square tsuba. This picture and this book has such a heavy contrast that, see that behind it? See right here, if you can notice, this is where the flash took place. The flash was here, so the shadow goes up. So if you're looking from this book, you're going to make an argument that this might be curved. It's not curved. If you look at the original photo in the 66 Black Belt magazine, that contrast doesn't exist. It's a much better image. So here in 1960, see how it doesn't have the same contrast? What you're seeing is there is the shine, there's the light where the picture was taken. You can clearly see this is a short curved sword. You can see from here to here, curve, short sword, square tsuba, right? So Iga Ninja Museum in the 60s was trying to say short swords with square tsubas were used by ninjas, black outfit, black mask. However, over here, again, this is where the flash was and it shined this way. You can see because of everything else. Square tsuba, straight. This was the shadow. If I take away see the shadow? Right there. Take away the shadow, you go from like here to here, you can see how it curves for the short sword here. This is a curved sword. Wood to wood, that is a straight scabbard, straight across. Take away the shadow, that is what that was. It is a straight sword. So, not that it matters, my point is that straight swords, what we deem today as the ninja toe, 100% was perpetuated by Japan. In Japan in the 60s, we see black outfits, black masks, short swords with square tsubas, straight swords with square tsubas in the Ninja Museum. Now, whether that's historically accurate or not, That's up for debate, but my point is, it was not something that was created outside of Japan. It was something that was created in Japan. So there you guys go, a look at the 1970s book Ninja, the Invisible Assassin by Andrew Adams. How much of this book do you think is historically accurate? How much of this book and information do you think influenced the ninja martial arts that we see today? And how much of this book that we see influenced the 1980s ninja boom? You guys give me your thoughts in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I do post multiple videos every single week. If you guys are interested in training in authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu, please check out my website at budo-ninjutsu.com. There you guys can see the 7 traditions, the philosophies and strategies that we teach. If you don't live next to one of our schools, you guys can always join the Budo-Ryukai online ninjutsu dojo and start training that way. So thank you guys very much for your love and support. I deeply appreciate it. Until next time, take care, be safe, and good luck in your journey of Budo. Bye.